Welcome to chapter 4. In this chapter, we're going to incrementally create more complex logic to our study smart contract. So understanding it and writing local tests is so important for you and will help you to learn much more skills. The resulting code of this chapter is also available in the attachment, so you can see it. So let's get back to the code of the contract we've programmed in the previous chapter. We're going to continue building on top of this contract. So let me elaborate a bit more on our plan during this lesson. We are going to rewrite our contract, so it will have following logic. It will receive a message with a specific command. Commands are used to identify which part of the functionality of our contract should be executed against the data received in the message. Based on this specific command, it will increase the number that is stored in our C4 storage. So it will also provide a getter method that is returning current counter value, this number, and the address that has sent the message with incrementing operation code. We're already familiar with the concept of writing into data storage and getter methods, so this will not be any problem, rather a good practice for our skills. However, the concept of commands is new for you. So commands are also called operation codes, or shortly OP codes. OP code is simply an integer that we use to indicate certain logic block. This is just a standard, but OP codes don't appear there by themselves. You have to put them once you're composing the message before sending it. So it's a good practice. Important to notice that when we read the data, we have to do it in the same order as we are written them in there to make sure that get data works properly on the first run. We are going to get back to the concept of initial data as well. So we are storing a certain value in the C4 storage from the very moment of contract deploy. So this is the plan. And now let's get more into code, and we'll actually go through the steps looking at the code. So as I mentioned, we're going to put the operation code in the very beginning of our in-message body. So now we'll actually write the code that will read it from the very beginning. So we already have read the sender address, and the next step would be read an integer of 32 bits length. So now we're putting it here like this because we know how we're going to compose this message. In FunC, for some variables, we have to specify the amount of bits. So this is why for this integer that we are doing here, reading here, we are actually assuming that all 32 bits will be dedicated to this number. So the operation code we are going to use for incrementing the counter value is going to be 1. So let's wrap our logic in. So there is a statement that checks the OP code is equal to 1. It is going to look like this. So basically, if OP is equal to 1, and here we will say comment counter logic is coming, just for now. And then we basically want to move this part into the operation code. We will get back to this logic just in a moment. So our local storage structure is going to be as following. It's going to be a counter value integer, and then it's going to be sender address. So we had sender address as the first parameter before, but now we are going to store one more parameter here in this cell that is going to be in the local storage. So in our receive internal function, we suppose that the local storage already has this data stored, so we just read it. We don't need to read the previous most recent sender because when we will save values back to storage, we are already going to use the new values for this, the sender address of the counter message and the incremented value. So once we get the counter value, we want to increment it. The last step would be simply saving data in the same order that we read. So basically, we are first getting data. As you remember, get data system function to read the local storage. Open it for reading. Open this cell for reading, taking this slice. And now we will have to read out the counter value. So we're also going to dedicate 32 bits for it. So again, we just assume it's there because once we will initiate the contract, we will put these values in the same value. That's why we can actually read them. We don't need to read the the previous sender address, because as I mentioned, we will at this point already know it. So we use function setData. So we begin cell, we store uint, we increment the counter value by 1, dedicate 32 bits, we store slice with the sender address that we read here. We don't need to read the previous one because we are composing a new cell with new value, and we just replace the old cell of local storage with the new one. But now we also need to update our getter method, so it also reads the storage data in the proper order. So we're going to also rename it to get contract storage data. Let's rename it so it would not be just get the latest sender, because we get more than just the latest sender. So, but also we will update the return type, because now it will return integer and slice. And of course, we need to, here, we would need to return integer and slice. So yes, we'll do like this. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this tilde means that we are actually reading out from this data storage. So basically, once we read out this integer, the slice, as you remember, it's like a pointer inside of the cell. Slice will move 32 bits forward. And next time we read out from the data storage variable, it's already going to be in the point from which you will start reading the address. So basically, this is our final code. We're pretty much done with writing our simple logic. We just made our contract a little bit more complex. And in the next lesson, we are going to update our tests for it as well.